My road was just kind of like, hey, this is good. You're good where you are. But I don't know what I would have done if going into my junior year or going into my senior year, somebody would have been like, we're going to give you $100,000 to come play here.
I would have had to make some decisions for myself, given what we're in now, like before even going to Wisconsin. And then possibly I would have been able to have more of a asking price. I'll say the asking price after that first Rose Bowl.
I want to go ahead and just jump straight into this. So we were talking about this whole NIL thing going on nowadays, and it's just running rampant. And a lot of this, my thought process came from talking with Deuce and the decisions that he's made. And I'm like, would I have transferred when I was at Carolina? And for me, I don't think I would have transferred just because I didn't have that notoriety like that. I think for me, my best move was staying at Carolina. It was to play those 4 years at Carolina, and I think that really helped me. I don't think I was ever in a situation where somebody would have offered me six figures to go to another school, whereas you, on the other hand, you were, I almost said Pac-12, Big Ten, like, what was it, Lineman of the Year? You won Defensive Player of the Year. Like, tell us about some of the accolades.
To an extent, coming out even from high school, like I was a Parade All-American second team, like I was a Tom Lemming All-American. And it was crazy because at the time, like I told you from that first interview, I didn't even get All-State in my own state.
Really?
Like literally based off of numbers and based off of measurements. Literally, that's what I figured out is that I was able to jump up in categories. Like literally, this kid is the best, as far as measurements and talent-wise that you have at this position. So all of your universities should be looking at him. Now, given that notoriety, I wonder, would I have transferred from Wisconsin? Having that, because obviously that notoriety at that time as opposed to this time, you're way more out there.
When would you have transferred though? Like, I mean, are you talking about like your first year or two there? You would have thought about transferring?
I'm saying I would have thought about possibly transferring, maybe not even going to Wisconsin, because coming out of high school, being a second team All-American, I think at that time, given this time, I would have had way more choices. So I think at the time,
so you'd have been a bigger deal, is what you're saying?
I think I possibly would have been a bigger deal.
Excuse me.
Well, yeah, and that's only my feelings of that are only based off of what the climate that we're in now.
Right.
What the kids are able to deal with. Back then, we had Tom Lemming, we had a couple of little publications like that, but it wasn't really a way for the scouts unless you really sent your guys out there to really, be seeing the kids here and there. And then it was only regional. You had a guy, he went to the West Coast. You had a guy who went to the East Coast, and a guy who went to the South, and a guy who went to the Midwest. And he didn't even get to see all the kids.
Didn't see everybody.
Over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, with as much exposure these kids have been able to have with the social media and everything else, like you could see a kid working out. So even if he does it, he might not even be getting to throw the ball, but that doesn't matter to you as a scout, and that doesn't matter to you as a recruiter, because you're like, you will fit in here, and I will give you the chance to get that ball.
See, I was very different. Like, I don't remember all my accolades coming out of high school. Like, that's just so long ago. But I just know for me, being at Carolina, like, I had to go through the grind. I got there. I don't know if I was highly recruited. I had, like, Michigan State, Maryland, North Carolina. Like, I had a few schools that were after me. But it was, like, Carolina, home team. I've always been a Tar Heel fan. So when I went there, I look back on all that and the good times that I had and everything that happened. I don't think there was anything that happened when I was at Carolina from my freshman year to my senior year where I was like, I'm unhappy here. This sucks. They're out to get me. Nobody's giving me a chance. I came in. I redshirted. After my redshirt year, I was starting. So for me, my road was just kind of like, hey, this is good. You're good where you are. But I don't know what I would have done if going into my junior year or going into my senior year, somebody would have been like, Florida State comes along and said, Russell, we're going to give you $100,000 to come play here. I'm like, I don't know if that would have happened for me because I look back at my stats and I'm like, well, I wasn't some standout guy like that. But then I thought about you and coming in today and I'm like, well, Wendell was like Big Ten D Lineman of the Year. You were Player of the Year. Like, when did you get Player of the Year? Was it
I got Player was junior senior year.
You got it both years.
Junior senior year, yeah. Was Defensive Lineman of the Year junior senior year.
Okay, so after your
first team All-American like my senior year, second team All-American junior year, first team All Big Ten sophomore year, freshman year, the Rose Bowl team, academic All Big Ten. Yeah. So I would have had to make some decisions for myself, given what we're in now, like before even going to Wisconsin, and then possibly I would have been able to have more of asking price. I'll say that asking price after that first Rose Bowl. But with it,
so what year was that? The Rose Bowl?
That was 98, 99.
Which was what year for you?
My freshman year. So after my freshman year, I would have been able to renegotiate.
Were you starting?
I didn't start going into the year, but I started the Rose Bowl, but I ended up starting probably midway or the last 4 games of my freshman year. I ended up starting. So the coach was trying to bring me in because my measurables at the time.
Off the charts.
I'm 285 pounds. I'm 6'4", long ears, long arms. You know what I'm saying? Long legs, long arms, and I'm not even fully developed.
Yeah.
And I'm a baby.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say like a little baby deer still
learning that boy
how
out
to play.
there. Just let him play. Like whatever. If he messes up, he messes up. But for the most part, just let him go and just let him keep rocking as far as possible.
And see, so let's just say you play your freshman year, your sophomore year, you get all those accolades, everything that you've done. Now all of a sudden, the money comes into it. Now you got schools that reach out to you by whatever means. They reach out to you directly. They have somebody do it indirectly. However it's done, they talk to you. You think you would have chased the money?
I think I would have chased the money.
Really?
Only because of what climate that we're in.
No. I'm not even talking about the climate. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying, because I know for me, I don't think I would have. I'm looking at it from obviously a dad's perspective, 49 years old. I'm looking back at it, but I don't know if my accolades were high enough to start chasing that NIL money. I would have been scared because I would have been like, man, like what's going to happen? But when you have numbers like yours and when you're putting up stats like yours, it's easy to see how wanted you are. Whereas I was on a team with Greg Ellis, Vonnie Holiday, Dre Bly. Like there were other ballers on the team that almost in a way kept me in my place from the standpoint of, well, if these guys aren't going anywhere and they're not testing the market, I'm definitely not going to do it. But you set the tone on your team, though.
Right. But what if those guys would have tested? Just a question quick to you. What if those guys would have tested the market? Then that jumps you into a whole other category because you are a starter, so you can ask for more. So I believe for us at the time, like obviously right now, and we're saying in hindsight, like at 49, like I'm thinking about my own measurables and I'm thinking about everything I might not have had to.
Right.
You look at me like, okay, like you might have had that click to be able to do so. And I'm telling you, like, yeah, I would have made the click only because of me being able to be, as far as like with the accolades that I got, being able to have that asking price, being able to be like, well, coaches over here talking about doing this, I just got this. What are you guys talking about? Yeah. Like I wish we would have been able to have those conversations back in the day for myself, because as a junior, you're coming into a store, like my mom took a picture, she's holding my jersey and whatever. I
didn't have those kind of things. So our perspectives are very different.
Yeah, so she's bringing me $100 and then, she's having a conversation. She's like, you getting any money off of these jerseys or any stuff? Like I'm like, no, Mom, we don't go. We're not supposed to get. We'll at the time and thinking of how crazy that thought process was. Like we'll get in trouble. For getting some money for somebody wearing your jersey with that. They're only wearing it because you're the one that reps that and you're the one making the plays.
But that's not what they said though. It represents all the people that wore that number.
Everyone's like,
nobody had on the back to me.
But nobody, my name's on the back. It's like, well, yeah, but I'm like, they know it's me. They're saying Wendell.
I'm gonna tell you, man. I'm listening to you. Like I said, I know that physically and what you did when you were in college, I would have been afraid, man. Like I would have seen if somebody would have offered me 6 figures, thinking about my mom, what 6 figures could have done for our family at the time. Like I wouldn't have had any further knowledge than $100,000. To me, at that time in 94. 95, 96, that would have been unheard of money. I would have been like, hell yeah, sign me up for it.
Say anything, say $20,000. So we'll even account for inflation rate. So somebody giving you $20,000
would have been something to think about.
Yes.
Right. Would have been huge. And it's like, but I guess I would have been scared to take that chance. I guess that's what it comes down to, because I would have looked at things and been like, with my mom would have, that military upbringing, she was like, well, you started here, we're going to finish
here.
It wouldn't have been about, she would have came to me and been like, I get it. This money could really help us do some things, but let's look at the bigger picture. Right. And I would have been afraid to step out in that water and be like, let me test this. But then as I'm thinking about these things, I'm like, God, well, Wendell had all these accolades.
Such an unknown to step out into. So I understand your apprehension with that. With me, I don't think I wouldn't have been apprehensive, only because of the accolades and the things that I had done after my freshman year. Yeah. If you have the calculator, you got the resume to ask for an asking price, then you ask for that. Because that's exactly what I tell the kids now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, literally, they calculated, I went back and calculated the money that they made, during the course of the time. And it was in essence like, $100 to $200 million. Now, I know at least 5 or 6 dudes that unfortunately, were let go for scholarship purposes to clear room for other guys. Now, I think at that time, those things probably didn't need to happen, given the amount of money coming through. But, obviously there are, casualties within this war of football. But I wish this was going on during that time, because at least those guys would have been able to get something for their future, for whatever they gave to the university. Because obviously I was practicing against somebody. He might be letting him go, but I needed him during the time, and he helped to make me better. And I wish I could help him.
Right,
but
right. 10,000, 5,000, whatever it is, something in your pocket.
Yeah.
So that was really something with you coming in today, because I was just thinking about that like all day today. And it was just on my mind, and I'm like, man, that man had so many accolades, and like, how would that? I mean, I started thinking like, well, what would this have done to his future? Like, if he had stayed at Wisconsin, is this the best move for him? Because staying at Wisconsin made you a top 15 pick. Does it just because you chase that money? And those are the things that I balance even now with my own kid. Like, what's the best move? Like, what's the best move?
I think you as a father have laid it out the best way, to where you're monitoring the decisions of your child and your son, but you're allowing them to make the decisions, but you're also understanding like, hey, this is the game that you're in now. Yeah. Like, I wish it wasn't as cutthroat as it is, but literally in essence, you're even more of a number now.
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
it's about literally, you're even more of a number now. And now it's about you being out there, you being a person, you being a personality, being on social media, having followers and the rest of this stuff. And in essence, I'm thinking like, just play ball. And I feel so lucky. Yeah, I feel so blessed to at that time to have been able to just play ball. Like, all I had to do is play ball and go to school. Like literally, I had that plan from freshman year of high school all the way to the end. Now, I can only be super grateful to the fact that I had that, consistency. Because when you have because the things that Deucer is going through right now, like, I can only imagine. Like, that's crazy to me.
Bro.
And for me, I'm super proud of him. I think he's extremely tough for being able to come from one spot, but luckily he had the backing of a great father to be able to hand to a next spot. But for him, like, he can chase. Yeah. And I think he's in the same position that I am. And I'm like, you're talented enough. You came out with the accolades. You go get yours. And I think I would have done the same thing based off of that. I would have been scared.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I would have, I'm even frightened thinking about it now. But given my situation, like, that feeling that I had junior year of seeing, things that I was a part of, or things that I actually wore, and I know they're repping me, but I'm not able to get any parts of that. And my mom, she's struggling, having to say that she, made less than what she made in order for me to get certain grants and different stuff like that. Even if it was like $1,000, $2,000 less, which is all it was. That Pell Grant, that's $1,600. I held that $1,600 down for 5 months.
Bro,
every year.
My mom, was the thing. My mom made just enough to where she couldn't get the Pell Grant, but she couldn't send me money when I needed it. So it was like, man. So it's just, so leading into that, I mean, what we're talking about, it also lends itself to, the NFL when we were drafted versus now, because we were talking about that before we even started on air. I don't know. I was a 49th pick in the second round coming out, and was that 99? Yeah, 99. And dude, that was high. Like,
it's still high.
It's still very high.
What are you talking about? I'm like, it's high. Yeah, it's still high.
I don't know, based on what my strengths were at that time, which was a run-heavy league. I was always brought up as a run stuffer, as a big body guy. That pass rushing, man, that is a talent that I almost, dare I say, it's God-given. Like, you can work on it, you can become better, but it's just some people have that innate ability to get to that pass. So the movement and how they move their body, I don't know if I had that. So when you take a Russell who would have been, your strength is the run game, and then you fast forward 25 years
to the style of football that all the kids are playing now.
I don't know if I would have been as high. I think I would have been a 4th round pick. And then I watch these kids. And the only reason I think about this stuff is because I got a smart ass son up in Washington that's always been like, Dad, I'm telling you right now, I'll do this. And then, I'm going to defend myself. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to defend myself. But then part of me is like, does he have a point here? And I started watching what the league is now. And I can admit, for me, I wasn't a strong pass rusher. That wasn't my game. But if you line me up 4th and 1, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
But
but I feel like you would have kept that just because of the adaptability of men and human beings. I felt like if the environment's showing what you have to do in order to succeed, then it comes down to the individual person. Now, do you feel like that you would have seen the environment around and had the same mentality as Deuce and taken that? So that's what I feel like it comes down to, is like, oh, okay, well, this is what everybody needs to do, or that's what I've got to do in order to get it, then I'm going to do what I got to do to get it. And I feel like you would have done that.
But I think the transition started happening for me, I would say, in the NFL when I started seeing like, wow, this is really becoming a pass rush league. Were you here with Simeon Rice?
Yeah, no, I wasn't here with him, but I was able to meet Simeon.
You obviously know about him.
Yes.
When he went down to Tampa Bay, I think that's really when that whole like explosive pass rush, because you got him, Marcus Jones, you got Warren Sapp, you got McFarland. Like that's when I think the league really started to make that turn of it's about pass rush. It's about getting to the quarterback. And me, I'm watching that like, damn, I wish somebody would have taught me how to do that early on. So, I mean, I guess it's the same argument that people have like, oh, if Jordan played today, I'm like, the athlete 25 years ago is not the athlete of today. What was amazing and what was an amazing play 25 years ago for us in football is commonplace nowadays. Like, you know, a defensive end weighing 240 pounds getting 13, 14, 15 sacks. That's amazing. You got 3 techniques getting 10 sacks.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm almost afraid.
Now, is that more, and also given the rules have changed. Yeah. So if we really analyze the rules of it, what are we as D linemen and O linemen allowed to even get away with at this point? So I think that will also attribute to.
But what are we allowed to get away with that hasn't changed? Because now you're going to get me started on
I'm not saying much, but I'm saying like I'm saying like think about that. Like the rules also temper what a person and what you're even looking for as a coach, as far as like, am I going to take this player or not? Yeah. Because it's like, okay, well, I know he's good at this, but if he grabs, we're going to get a penalty for that, so I can't necessarily take him. Whereas this guy, he's got pass rush ability, but he's lighting the ass. Like, so he might get boomed out of the way. Yeah. So depending upon who we're playing,
what league you're playing in, are you in the AFC, NFC? No, I hear what you're saying.
Depending upon when I'm going to need the guy or not. So then I feel like, so I don't feel that in essence, because football is cyclical too, I don't feel in essence that you wouldn't have gone high. I just feel like you would have gone high to a team that needed you specifically. I feel like there are so many good players now. Like, I don't feel that there are too many bums.
No.
I feel that all the kids, you know, from a skill standpoint of just having to be good, like all of y'all are watching YouTube, all of you guys are doing this, all of you guys are doing the same foot drills. You're going to the camps, the ABCDs and the Adidas camps and all that stuff. So there's so many of y'all. It's that kid that's watching that extra film on themselves and taking that little bit of extra, and also still staying a kid and enjoying the time and enjoy this for what it is.
I mean, I look at this stuff, man, and it's like, you know, and I appreciate that, you know, being like, you still would have been. Because when I look at you, I'm like, I know you were built to be a pass rusher. Even when you came to the Cardinals, you always, I was like, dude, this dude's a pass rusher. Like, you don't need to be putting him in situations where taking on double teams. Like, but it wasn't that era. So, you know, you might have been ahead of your time, dare I say.
Right.
Now, if you were 5 years later, 10 years later, now you're talking about a prime Wendell in an era where it's about getting to the quarterback.
I would have lost 30 pounds quick. I would have lost 30 pounds or 25 pounds. It's been about 275, 280, 285, and been running straight up the field. See? And then I think about, you know, with the schemes of defensive now, how many things that certain individuals, certain athletes don't have to do. Because literally, I remember my defensive end had to do this, depending upon whatever. And my linebackers had to do this. Whereas like my 3 techniques, there was only a certain amount of stuff that they had to deal with. And my nose guards, there's only a certain amount of stuff they got to deal with. Now they have to know everything. Like, especially they need to know pass, where it's like, if it's time for a game, we need to know that NT, we need to know that TN, and it needs to be an automatic. Yeah. Like, as soon as we see this formation, you know what they're going to do. They do it 85% of the time. We're in game 12. Yeah. So they're going to do this. It has to be, you know, internalized enough as a D-line. We're going. We're blowing it going.
I just, when I watch that stuff and I watch these young men nowadays, and I'm like, man, you know, I know when I played, I thought like, wow, this is the NFL. It doesn't get much better than that. And then it's like every year it just keeps doing this. And you're like, oh, my God, like this is amazing. So when I watch Deuce and I watch the things that he's asked to do now, like you said, it's a hybrid game. It's no longer just a solid. You want the best 11 on the field. It's kind of like basketball. I don't care, point guards, whatever I want the best 5 on the field. And I think like a lot of that has trickled into football, where it's like you got defensive ends 250, you got 3 techniques 265, 270, a nose tackle maybe 280, and it's just they're all hybrids, and it's like they dropping into coverage, and you got defensive ends. Like when I talk to Deuce, he's like, Dad, 4.6 for a defensive end is about the standard. And I'm like, wow. 4.6 is a standard 40? He was like, yeah. He goes, 4. If you're not running at least a 4.6 as like a true edge rusher, he goes, you probably won't see much action. I'm like, 4.6. I'm like, I ran a 4.8 coming out of college.
And I was like, high 4.7. 4.7, it's 4.77, 4.78.
Yeah.
Bro, so, and even then, I'm looking at that now.
And that's smoking when we were coming out. Yeah, these boys are so much faster.
Like that, like my 10-yard split was like a 1.6, 1.7. Mm-hmm. Like if you're moving like that, you should be straight.
You should be,
but now
it's 1.5, 1.4. You know, your 10-yard split, you're looking at them boys like, did he just run 10 yards in 1.5 seconds?
That's what I'm
You're
saying.
Like, dude, that's rolling. And then from there, they can already say, okay, based on this number, then this is probably what your 40 is going to be. But, I mean, I'll sing your praises all day because you were, you were 15th or 12th?
12th.
Okay, so you were 12th in a time when, we 3 years behind me?
3
years behind me. So we were right around the same time, and it's like when I remember just seeing, I'm like, God, he's pass rusher. Even, I mean, you every time in practice you be just going, and I'm like, bro, that's pass rush. I think now Prime Wendell coming out of Wisconsin would probably be top 10, man. I think you would have moved up a lot because that's what you do well.
Yeah.
Like pass rush, like I mean, and especially with Deuce being in the Big Ten right now, I always tell him,
bro,
I said, dude, when you come home, you got to work with Wendell. I'm like, this dude was Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten. He was defensive lineman for 2 years in a row in the Big Ten. Whenever you get home, if it's just 30 minutes of picking his brain, I need you to be over there because I'm like, dude, he played at a high level in a top division and was a top pick.
What he's got to understand is within certain areas, like as far as certain parts of the country, he's only going to run into certain types of athletes. So once he gets into like the Minnesotas, the Michigans, and all those dudes are going to be road graders, and they're not going to have very good as far as like kick to get out to him.
Yeah.
Whereas like if he's playing like an Oregon, or if he's playing and obviously it depends upon the grade of the university. So if he's playing Ohio State or a Penn State or a Michigan, they probably got that tackle that can kick.
Yeah.
But those other intermediate and a Wisconsin, because we're O-line university, but those other ones like your Northwesterns, your Purdue's, your Illinois, your other teams that might not necessarily, they're there, but obviously we know those upper echelon ones that are on the top, that they're going to get those top 300 recruits every year. Like those dudes will be able to kick. So you got to know who your personnel is, and really who your personnel is with you, and who the personnel is you're playing against. Mainly who you playing against, because you'll be able to talk to your dudes, and as long as you guys know who you're playing against, then you can run games and you can run things within this, the two of you, and like nobody else even has to be a part of it. It doesn't even have to be a part of the defensive scheme to the coordinators. Like it could literally just be between your defensive line coach
now you'll get him in trouble now. Now you're getting him in trouble now. Now you're asking to be. You know who is his D coordinator is now Belichick, the son. So he's got that, and it was crazy because he was talking about that.
That's
he was just like so excited. He was just like, Dad, I saw Coach Belichick, and I'm like, oh, he said, no, not the son, the dad. And I'm like, ooh. I'm like, did you go talk to him? He's like, I was scared.
You good? Because I would have been.
I would have been too.
44 years old. I've been frightened.
I'd have been like, that's Bill Belichick.
Oh my gosh, Bill Belichick.
And he never talks to anybody. It's just yes, no. We played well. We played poorly. All
right.
And he was just like, Dad, I wanted to see. He goes, maybe when I start balling more. And I'm like, wow. He's like, I can't approach him. That's royalty.
You're fine.
And I respect him for that.
Respect him for that. Because believe dudes, like we have the same feeling. Like there's certain dudes you could approach, and then there's certain dudes like, oh my goodness, you're you.
He's a superstar.
Yeah.
Who's that? Who's somebody, if you saw them today, whether it's when we playing now or retired, who is somebody, if you saw him, you'd be like, I'm not even going to go over there and speak to him.
Oh my goodness.
Because I'm going to tell you before, I'm going to let you think about it for a minute.
It's LT for me, royally. Like I had the pleasure to meet Joe and obviously play for Joe.
Yeah, you play, yeah.
So it's like, but it's certain defense. Like I was actually able to meet Reggie White, which was super dope.
You met Reggie White, that's cool.
I was being recruited by Buzz Cook, which was his agent and Brett Favre's agent at the same time.
So when you were coming out of
yeah,
college.
so when I was coming out. Really good guy. There's a couple of older players, I don't even know if they're even still around, but those dudes, like the legends of the game, like dudes that played between like the 70s and 80s and the 60s, those are the ones that I probably, because I feel like thank you for even being out there during a time to where you were just trying to even get the game to the next year.
Right.
Like the game wasn't
getting it to where it is now.
There was no money behind it. We had no sponsors. Like people
loved.
literally
We were
was just
playing
like,
for the love
oh,
of the
we're on
game.
CBS or we're on NBC, and then we're fighting for spots with baseball and basketball and everything else. And now whoever made that move for football, we appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate all the old school guys, man.
Football's on big
y'all,
dog
man.
status.
I don't know, man. Right now, I'm not gonna lie to you.
We've met so many on accident, bro.
I'm telling you right now, Aaron Donald.
AD?
I'd be like, no, I'm not gonna go over there and bother him. I would, because I'm like, dude, I'm such a fan of Aaron Donald. I mean, there are defensive ends and edge rushers in the league right now that I watch, and I'm
it's
like, wow,
different though.
I would, if I saw them out, if I saw Parsons out, and and he was cool, and I was like, hey man, what's up? Love your game. I keep it moving. Donald, I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I'd be too light.
I respect you on that, and I probably am going to piggyback you on that only because of such a respect for what he was able to do for the position.
Like, I don't even want to bother you with this petty conversation.
But thank you so much for just giving that love to the 3 technique. Like I never thought a 3 technique would be the number one player in football for a course of a 6 to 7 year period. There's literally no one that can mess with you at your position. There's not a guard or a tackle or a center anywhere that can stop you. Like literally, there's whole offenses that can't stop
built
you.
around you.
Built around you.
Stopping you.
Yeah, like we're going to go this way, we're going to go this way.
Where is he?
Not going straight at him.
Don't go straight at him.
Do not do that.
I just thought about that. And I'm like, LT would be another one. Like if I met him.
LT would be me. I was like, oh my God.
This is going to tell you a lot about me. I would have loved to party with him.
Yeah.
I got married. I'm not even.
I mean, what are we saying?
Yeah. Drugs, but I think that would have been an awesome person to go hang with.
I would have been in that same light just with you. But yeah, obviously there's certain things like, okay, we need to go to bed, dog.
Yeah, bro, it's day 2 and we haven't been to sleep yet.
And I tell people, I'm like think about a focused LT on know anything and the numbers he might have had at that point. Like bro is like 6'4", 275 pounds, and running a 4.5, 4.6 off the edge. Like that is he's the original us. He's the original B. He's the original
this. Deuce, if you hear this, you hear what he's saying. Because I tell Deuce this all the time. I'm like, hey bro, LT is the father of edge rushers.
Yes.
Today. He is the reason that y'all are doing what you do. He was so far ahead of his time. And I just tell him this stuff all the time. He's like, nuh-uh, Dad. He goes, J.J. Watt's the best. And I'm like, okay, I see where you're coming from. But LT set the bar for what edge rushers are right now. That's the king. That's your father. That's your father figure.
And it's a different age, but I'm like, there's a different fear with LT that I think he brought to the table. And I'm not saying people weren't. JJ was just fearful in his own right as far as like a force to be reckoned with. Yeah. But it's a different day and age when you know a man is coming off of a binge and you know he's out there and you know he's turned up off of something else. He's going a million miles an hour. Yeah. He could be coming down off of it. He could be getting to the peak of it.
Yeah.
Cussing, whatever.
Just going off in himself.
Not even listening to his own coach.
It's cool. He's just talking to himself.
Not even listening to his own coach. Parcells is like, what are you doing? He's like,
don't worry about it.
Go makes the play, looks at him like,
okay, well, yeah.
All right, there you go.
Say, man.
Yeah, nothing else to do.
Nothing else to say about that. Like you may be, I don't know where you are in your binge, but keep doing what you do.
Keep doing what you're doing, yeah. Nobody's mad over here, dog.
Cool, man. I appreciate that, bro.
You already know.
Thanks for tuning in to The Route. Don't forget to subscribe and connect with us on socials for exclusive updates. We'll see you next week.